r/AskReddit. What happened in school that still pisses you off when you think about it today? I was in the school finals of some general knowledge quiz/competition. The question I was asked was, what is the collective noun for a group of whales? I answered confidently, a pod. The illiterate bloody teacher had a school written on her answer card. Refused to listen when I assured her it was indeed a pod. Her ignorance cost me the grand title, and I was practically in tears, in front of the whole school, at the injustice of it. Everyone then labeled me as a bad loser. Will never forget it. Still seethe on it from time to time. It happened in 1985. If only it was in the era of the smartphone. Just whip that out, and Google it, and make the teacher look like a moron. Edit, my god, so much hate about cell phones but there's an encyclopedia. The point in my joke was that so many people have a cell phone ready for use in their pocket. Lighten up, people. I was in a pub quiz the other week and the quizmaster got a question wrong. I think it might have been about Pluto being considered a planet. I knew when I answered the question it was going to be a coin toss, whether the QM thought Pluto was a planet or not, and guessed that he would be right. But I guessed wrong, and grumbled a little bit, got my phone out, just to show my teammates after the quiz finished. Not too audibly, but the quizmaster happened to be sat near me, and came up all high and mighty, and said that I should be in charge of the quiz, if I think I'm so good at it. So annoying. A girl in 3 of my classes was allowed by the administration to have her cell phone during classes because her father was dying. I was aware of the situation, since it was happening for a week and she often had little breakdowns. One day, in first period, her phone vibrates while the teacher is talking. He disregards that fact that she's allowed to have her phone and demands she hand it over to him. I believe he said something along the lines of, "I'll read it, and if it's not your mother then I'm keeping it," her phone, for the rest of the class because it rang while I was talking. Well, the girl flips out. Starts crying as soon as she sees her phone screen. She said no. She's leaving. This starts a standoff between the teacher and her. He ends up blocking the doorway while still demanding her phone. His logic was, if he didn't know it was her mom texting her then he can't let her leave. At this point, she's inconsolable and everyone in the class is screaming at him to let her go. Like, duck your complex, dude. Let her go. And he's screaming back, "I'm in charge here." To the point the class made so much noise that security came in to see what was going on. Security tells the girl just go to the office. Her dad did die that day and she wasn't in school for a month. The teacher had a leave of absence as well, and we had a sub the rest of the year. From then on, students were not allowed special circumstances for cell phones and teachers were not allowed to block students from leaving. The real kicker is this was intro to photography and most students were there because we had to take a mandatory elective. Duck you, Mr. M. You were a peen to that poor girl who only wanted to see her dad one more time. I'm mad just typing this out. What a massive control freak pinhead. My elective class is super important. A teacher told me I couldn't keep a bottle of water in my locker because it could be vodka or something. I told her she could smell it and check. She said, "That's not my job," and that I could just use the drinking fountain. I asked her if she would use the drinking fountain instead of a mug/the tap in the teacher's lounge. She wouldn't answer. This reminds me of my old English teacher. She used to not very slyly drink vodka from water bottles in class. We had a former teacher who would occasionally sub, and I'm pretty sure he was running on Irish coffee. A guy threw his cheat paper at me in an exam. The invigilator saw it, but instead of throwing him out of the class he threw me and gave me an F in that exam. This is the most ridiculous thing I've heard today. Yeah. What's an invigilator? I had to pee. Then I asked to go to the restroom. The substitute, full-time teacher for another class, said, "You don't have to pee. Just sit down." After a bit more pleading and begging I just peed my pants. I was 8 and totally mortified. What made it worse is that the teacher told my parents that I should have spoken up earlier and accidents happen. I still think I should have peed on her desk. Something like this happened when I was in high school. The kid just pulled a garbage can to the corner and pissed in it. We had a pregnant girl in one of our classes and she needed to pee. She told the teacher and the teacher told her she should have kept her legs closed and she wouldn't need to pee so badly. She stood up, walked over to the door, peed in her pants in front of it, and walked out. He got fired because she had a medical reason for needing to have constant bathroom breaks. 10th grade class. Relatively early in the semester, but getting a 90 so far. One assignment was to make a flash animation. There wasn't really a formal submission process, and students just had to show the teacher that the assignment was done. I was the first one to finish. I showed the teacher. He said good. I moved on to do other assignments. About a week later I got my updated class average, which dropped to 78 somehow. I talked to the teacher, who said he never saw my flash assignment. I argued that I was the first one done, that he even commented on it, and my friend was sitting right next to me when I showed it to him. He was basically like nope, never saw it. Eventually got my average in that class back to mid-80s by the end of the semester, but the ducker should have had a better submission process than just show me it's done. Edit, my first RIP inbox moment. Not to add salt to the wound, but I had an 8th grade English teacher that was on the complete opposite of the spectrum. We had to turn in 4 papers through the year. That would account for 25% of our year-end grade. I turned in 1. And somehow the guy never asked me for the next 3, but still gave me credit. I did something like this a few times. Had a very scatterbrained teacher in 10th grade. Had to turn in a huge, 13 pages or so, research paper. He just asked everyone to bring it up at the same time. So I did what any self-respecting procrastinator would. I grabbed a friend's and made conversation with said teacher while handing it in, but stood out of the way so others could hand in theirs and bury the one I handed him. Week or two later, he asks me to step out into the hall and says he can't find my paper. That's strange. I definitely handed it to you, Mr. P. I stood there and talked to you about whatever class-related topic it was for a bit. I was terrified, expecting him to ask me for another copy, which didn't exist. But instead he responds with "That's right. I thought that was you. Wasn't it? HMM. I guess I lost it along with other things he lost. Tell you what. It was my fault and you're a great student. I'll just give you a 95 on it. Next to highest grade in the class." Edit, I agree with most of you, this was a terrible thing to do. And very dishonest move on my part. It was some 7 years ago now. Definitely not the sort of thing I'd do at my current stage of life. My teacher lost my finals, then made me retake them while making passive-aggressive comments about me trying to cheat. 2 weeks later she found my original final on her desk under a pile of papers. Edit, whoa. Thanks so much for the support and love. Didn't realize this resonated with so many other people. Y'all are the best. I hope she ducking apologized. Of course not. That would mean she took accountability in her actions. Last year of primary school, I was being bullied on a daily basis. One kid stabbed me between the shoulder blades with a compass. Teacher, seeing the blood through the back of my shirt, declared that I'd done it myself to my mother / eater. Wow. You guys have made me realize how common this is. Thank you. I don't recall fighting back at all as some of you have asked, but I think I'd been so bullied into submission by that point that I felt it was useless. The kid that did it sadly passed away a couple of years ago. In some fate-laden way I'm now a teacher and pride myself on being kinder to my students than my teacher was to me. Some teachers are amazing at overlooking bullied students. One of my best friends was bullied really badly in high school and none of the teachers thought it was worth their attention until she developed a severe eating disorder through the anxiety those little twats caused her. There's nothing more frustrating than seeking help through the channels the school tells you about and then being ignored completely. The amount of teachers that are trying to relive their glory days and make an effort to be extra sweet and nice to the popular kids is also insane. I get it. You had a hit high school experience and now you're in a position of power and can be friends with anyone. But it's as if they don't realize they are perpetuating the cycle. Just creating more hitty high school memories for another generation. In the 2nd grade our class was walking in a single file line outside for recess. It had rained and was muddy and slick. The class bully, a heavyset mean girl, was walking ahead of me. She slipped in the mud and fell on her ass. She jumped up and immediately pointed her finger at me. That it said I pushed her. I got detention for a few days and had to spend that recess with my head down on a desk in the teacher's office. I swore I didn't do it and no one believed me. Wow. That was like 1989 or 1990 and yeah. Still pisses me off. Don't worry. She probably got pregnant at 16 and now struggles to make ends meet while working 3 jobs to support her numerous hithead children who were fathered by 3 different men. The sad thing is, this more or less describes the majority of the itchy girls I went to school with. When I was 16, I started living by myself. One of the things that still pisses me off years later about the first year or so that I lived alone is that, even though my marks were actually improving at the time, there were still teachers who told me they liked me better when I lived with my parents. Yeah. Please teacher, tell me more about how I should have moved back in with my abusive parents. I liked you more when you were quiet and submissive. Duck that teacher. That teacher is the primary reason why I refused to do any science subjects in years 11 and 12.